After completing this lesson, you should be able to recall how to resolve common process errors, and describe how to use the monitor view for troubleshooting. As you develop your process model and debug after each node, you may run into issues that you need to resolve. In this lesson, you'll learn how to resolve common process errors and where to go to investigate process issues. Before you proceed to debugging, recall that you need to save and publish your process model. During this step, the process model will automatically validate that it has been configured correctly. If there are any issues, a publish error will display in a dialog or below the process model. Read the error messages carefully because they will help you to identify the source of the error. Keep in mind that these issues must be resolved before you can proceed to debugging. For example, if you forget to assign a user input task to a specific group of users, in this process, it's the review vehicle node, you'll see this error message. Attended nodes must be assigned. To fix this issue, open the target node, navigate to the Assignment tab, and assign the task to the correct group. Then, save and publish the process model again. Another common issue is when a specific node in the process fails to capture data. An issue like that won't throw an error. For example, this process is highlighted in blue, and that's why you should always check the Variables tab in Process Details after debugging a node. This typically means that the data was not mapped to the process correctly. To troubleshoot, go back to the node where the data is supposed to be captured and check that you are saving it correctly. If the data flow is configured correctly, double-check the form linked to the node. When you're designing an editable interface, each field should have values in the display value and save input to fields. If these configurations are missing, you won't see the data in the process model. To avoid this issue, always test the form independently of the process. Fill out the form, and then expand the rule input to see that the data you entered displays as expected. For example, in this form, I forgot to configure the next maintenance field. To fix this issue, I need to configure the display value and save input to fields. Process models are often used to write data to a database table using the write records or write to data store entity smart services. When the write is unsuccessful, double-check the Inputs tab. In this process model, I use the write record smart service, so I'll double-check the configuration of my records input. If it's configured correctly, meaning that you use the correct process variable, check that you're capturing all of the necessary values prior to reaching the write record smart service. In my example, I selected the incorrect variable in the value field. Let's fix this issue. By the way, in my environment, I can go directly to the connected database to see whether the data was recorded to the database table. I'll click the navigation menu, select Cloud Database, and double-check the target table to see whether it contains my data. Finally, you may also run into an error when a write record smart service is inserting a new row of data instead of updating an existing one. If you recall, this smart service is able to both create and update data for database-backed record types. If the smart service is creating a new row of data instead of updating an existing record, it's likely because the record being passed to the node doesn't have a value set for the primary key. To fix this issue, ensure that whatever method is used to select the record, for example, a related action, is supplying your process with the primary key. If the update is happening in the same process after the new row is created, ensure that you are saving the node data, records updated, to the process variable. Now that you have a high-level understanding of common errors, let's discuss where you can go to investigate them. If you expect a process model to accomplish something, but it doesn't happen, you should start the investigation by going to the Monitor view in Appian Designer. Simply click the Monitor view in the navigation pane, and then navigate to the Process Activity tab. Here, you can easily find process instances with errors, especially if you configured the dynamic display names for your process models. As you can see, having a dynamic display name makes it easier to differentiate between process instances. For additional details, click the Process instance. You'll be able to gather more information by reviewing the Errors or Variables tab in Process Details. Alternatively, you can click the error, which will link you directly to the Errors tab. Here, you'll read about your error and its location. For example, my error message says that I misconfigured the Write Record Smart service. If you are in the group that receives process alerts, the alert email will link you directly to the error message, like the one you see here. To learn more tips and tricks for handling common process issues, check out the following pages on Appian documentation: Process Errors, Troubleshooting Process Models, and Monitoring and Editing Processes. Let's recap. Read the error messages that you receive when publishing the process model. These errors must be remedied before you can proceed to debugging. All attended nodes must be assigned to specific user groups. If data is not written to the database table, double-check the configuration of the record's input. If the Write Record Smart service inserts a new record instead of updating an existing one, double-check the configuration of the record's updated output. Use the following tools to further investigate your processes: Process Activity tab in the Monitor view, and Variables and Errors tabs in Process Details.